Come on in, you guys. We got a brand new episode of Jimmy Rants in store for you here today. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, if you want to engage live in the content, you need to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. We also simulcast over on my Facebook page, so thank you to my Facebookers for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, on Instagram, you can watch it on replay. They let you watch it for up to 24 hours over there. After that, pop on over to JimmyRants.com. That is where all the past episodes are housed. We also throw them up on YouTube. So type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Again, it's called Jimmy Rants. So go type in Jimmy Rants. And a cool thing you could do on YouTube as well is type in Jimmy Rants in quotation marks, and then add a keyword to see if I've done a video, for example, on cholesterol. So you could put Jimmy Rants in quotation marks and then the word cholesterol, and you'll see the videos that I've done about that. But we've got almost, 460 something episodes now? You got a lot of content to go check out if you want to go watch. But today, you guys, I wanted to bring a topic to you because we are all still holed up in our houses, and we are supposed to be socially distancing from each other, although more accurately speaking, it's not socially distancing, it's physically distancing, so we're not physically in contact with each other, but we are supposed to try to stay in touch with each other. And so it's been hilarious seeing some of the old timers that have resisted technology trying to figure out Zoom or Skype or FaceTime and some of these other technologies. And so that's how people are staying in touch. I have a story today here, though, about how these virtual ways of connecting with people during this COVID-19 crisis might actually be adding more stress to your life. And so in talking about this, hopefully you can see the mistakes that maybe are happening with your communication with other people. I thought this was a really cool article. It is out of Psychology Today, by the way. And the title says, Why Virtual Communication Can Leave You Worn Out. Have you been on the Zoom call, Skype call, FaceTime, or any of the ways you've been connecting with people? Have you been on one of those technologies, and when it's over, you feel more tired than before? Now, obviously, seeing people or hearing the voice of people that you know and love, who are friends and family in your life, obviously you get invigorated to some degree by talking to them, otherwise you wouldn't be doing that. But maybe you hang up the Zoom call and you go, whoa, I'm just really tired, I'm just wore out. They explain what's going on here. Communicating online may be causing more stress than connection. So the whole pitch of this is, while we're socially distancing, you need to stay connected to the people in your life because that's important, and it is to have those connections. But listen to what this story has to say. Now more than ever before, we are reaching out online and communicating virtually. Remote communication is essential in combating loneliness and feelings of isolation. It's also the best means that we have for connecting and working together during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, communicating this way does have very specific drawbacks. If you are feeling like all these calls and video conferences seem to be leaving you completely drained by the end of the day, it's not just you. It's called virtual fatigue, and it is real. So in the article, they go through 5 reasons that you may be feeling worn out and tired by virtual communication. So let me just ask you guys before I go through that. How many of you still have people in your house, and that's primarily the people that you're interacting with? Or obviously there's people like me who are all alone. 1 in 4 Americans actually live all by themselves. It's essential, especially for an extrovert and a social person like myself, that I talk to people, and I am constantly wanting to talk to people. I've called my mom. I've got several friends that I talk to. Obviously, coming on Jimmy Rants, I get a little bit of kind of virtual communication with you guys, even though I don't see you. I do read your comments, and so I am getting a little bit of interaction this way. But are you engaging in a lot of this? Are you doing a lot of the virtual discussions with people? Are you going on video? Are you doing phone calls? What are you doing? And definitely let me know in the comments how you are staying connected at this time. But if you're joining us late, I'm talking about how we're having to virtually connect with each other at this time, which is unlike what a lot of people do. There are some people who are very adept at talking on video. I've been doing that for a little while, even before all this went down. So it's no big deal to continue doing that with friends. I'm doing it a lot more. But maybe for a lot of people, this is the first time you've ever communicated virtually. Are you noticing that you're feeling more fatigued, more stressed? Well, there's a reason for that. And again, I have a Psychology Today article here that explains the 5 reasons why you're feeling tired by all this virtual communication. So the first one, you guys, social nonverbal. So when you're on a Zoom call or FaceTime, for example, you can't really rely on body language for communication in quite the same way than if you were talking with them in person. And that's true. I mean, I've been on some video calls with people and you can see facial reactions, but sometimes it's not even a facial reaction that is communicating. Sometimes it's just the way they fidget their hand. Sometimes it's the way, they tap their toe or something when you're talking. You notice those things. They're unspoken social cues that tell you what's actually being communicated back and forth. And so you're not getting that while you're on video. Sometimes you have sound delays. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I will be on one of these video calls and it'll be one of those where it freezes for 10 seconds and then suddenly everything gets back. But I've already kept talking and wasn't really paying attention or whatever to see that it got frozen, or by the time it comes back, maybe the call gets disconnected and you have to hang up and call back, and then you finally get the connection to work. You forgot what you were talking about. And I'm one of those people that if I'm in the middle of saying something, I can't just stop and have this little 30 to 60 second interlude and then try to pick back up where I left off. My brain works as such that if I'm telling a story and then you come back and I don't know what you haven't heard because I don't know when it froze and all that. So then I'm trying to go, okay, what was I saying and where was I? And it can be stressful. You guys running into any of that right now? Or repeating yourself. I've done that quite a bit when I've been on with some people on video calls. I'll say something and you can see from the blank expression they didn't hear what you had to say. Sometimes I'll just throw out some wackadoodle line at somebody just to see if they're paying attention. And when I say something like that and then they don't respond, I'm like, oh, they can't hear me. So I say it again and then they go, what? So, it can sometimes be difficult to pick up on inflection in people's voices, which can make it challenging to understand the fullness of what they're trying to communicate. So not only are you maybe not hearing each other, but you're also not getting the full intent of what's being said because video is not quite the same as being back and forth, in person with each other. You can get all of that. It also makes it hard to pick up on nuanced form of communication like sarcasm, which is harder to detect. So yeah, that social nonverbal types of communication, you're losing it a lot right now. So are you finding some of these examples I've been talking about are causing you a little bit of stress? Do you kind of feel tense? I can tell you I've had frustration trying to talk to friends and basically them not being able to hear me or understand me. And that does cause a little bit of anxiety and stress because of it. Number 2, social boundaries. For those who have social anxiety, Zoom or FaceTime can make it harder to draw those boundaries. People get to see into your environmental context, where you live and where you stay. Well, I don't care that you see the Jimmy Rant Studios, by the way. And sometimes I will talk to people on a Zoom or Skype call right here. So my background doesn't really show you too much. You see my couch and you see a couple of pictures on the wall. That's it. And you see I've got a wood panel wall and a ceiling that's white. That's it. Drywall ceiling. Pretty boring setup, actually. Actually, I'm very proud of my Jimmy Rant studio. It's cool. This isn't just about physical surroundings. It's also more difficult to control your interactions, especially if you're in a home with other people. So if you're one of those people that has other people in your household right now, and you're trying to do a Zoom or a Skype call with someone or a FaceTime call, and people are screaming in the background and you can't hear them, so that's social boundaries are being broken there. For example, a person who works at an office likely has more control over their surroundings. Yet when you work from home, all you poor people that have to work from home and it's a new experience and you've got kids and spouse and all the stuff. Yeah. I remember a friend of mine here on Instagram a couple weeks ago was showing herself bawling her eyes out because she was at her computer trying to work. She had 3 dogs barking in the background incessantly. She had 2 kids screaming at the top of their lungs, and then the husband trying to yell at all of them to shut up. So that's a little distracting, a little bit stressful. Yet when working from home or socializing from home virtually, there's a greater chance that like a spouse or child can drop in and interrupt accidentally or even on purpose. So that, you guys, are the social boundaries. It's one advantage I have being here by myself is I don't have other people that could disrupt me in the midst of it. And so, but I do have cats, and you guys have heard it on Jimmy Rants recently, especially that one over there, that little black tuxedo cat over there. Skunk is her name, and she has occasionally interrupted my Jimmy Rants with a really loud meow. But she's being pretty chill over there right now. So, all right, the third one, social cues. Another reason all these online calls and conversations may be leaving you feeling tired and sluggish is because social cues become less and less clear. It can be hard to know when socializing should end and then work or primary purpose of the call should shift. Certain social cues that are easily read in real life, like boredom or frustration. You mean like the eye roll? I think I can see an eye roll on camera. If somebody's rolling their eyes at me, okay, time to move on. Can be harder to read virtually. Because of this, it's common for people to feel pressure to fill the silence and have a conversation. So in the work context, maybe you do a little bit of jibber jabber. Oh man, isn't this crazy? We have to work from home and do video conferencing. Yeah, it's just so much. Wow, and my kids are driving me nuts. I'm not used to them being home. So yeah, man, that too. And it's just this idle chit chat where you don't really know when to shift. And so looking for the social cues in that is really hard. Number 4, social transitions. Further compounding the awkwardness of communicating remotely may be that you and the person you're talking to are struggling to know when to transition from small talk into something more deep. I can tell you, when I go deep with someone, deeper, I'll always be like, all right, you ready to go deep? Because I have something to say here. And when you kind of like do a precursor to that, then they know that the transition is coming. But if you just jump right into it after you've been laughing about something, maybe telling a joke, you just jump right into a deep conversation, it gets lost in translation on video. So go out of your way to kind of announce it. And of course, a little bit of that knowing in me, knowing to do that is just my communication skills and podcasting skills. I've always kind of thought, okay, I have to paint a picture for listeners. Well, there is no listeners. It's just me and the person I'm talking to. But use that same skill. Paint the picture of where you're going. When I do my show with Dr. Will Cole on Thursdays called Real Talk, I'll do the same thing. Like we'll be talking about something and then I'll use something that was said to then transition, and I announce kind of what the transition is, and then we transition into it and we go deeper. That's a good skill to start using if you are having these kind of conversations. I do talk to one person who regularly will shift the conversation. We'll be in the midst of talking about one thing and then suddenly shift right to another discussion. I'm going, my brain is just kind of jumbled going, wait a minute, what's that have to do with what we were just talking? Oh, I've moved on. Oh, announce it. Let me know that we moved on to another topic. When it comes to connecting virtually, a lot of people approach virtually socializing with the assumption that the purpose of the call is to just talk and catch up. This can leave you feeling like you're having conversations online that don't seem to be going anywhere. So yeah, why would you even need to have a conversation with voice and or voice and video? You might as well just make it a text message conversation at that point. And there's nothing wrong with that too. I think a lot of people think text message could be a little impersonal, but maybe if it's just catching up, just talk on text message. I've got a friend that I just text messaged today, and we had a nice little back and forth for about 30 minutes and shared some stuff. I shared back, and it was wonderful. That is just as valid. And I would say that's even more efficient than talking on the phone or talking on a video call, because you're not having to deal with all this kind of stuff here. The written word is the written word. And we're good friends, and so we regularly talk like that anyway, because we're both busy. In many cases, people are reaching out more often online for virtual communication as a way of addressing feeling lonely, not necessarily because they need to talk about a topic. I can address to that. I can definitely relate to that, because I have had periods of loneliness at times. You know, when you're by yourself and you're social and you're an extrovert, yeah, you're going to have those periods of time where you really just want to talk to somebody, just anybody, to fill that void. So I get that. And I think the people you talk to, you just need to say, hey, I'm just feeling lonely. Can we just talk? Like, there's no agenda at play here. You just talk. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we need to give people grace like that and realize where people are, and know those friends and family in your life who are alone, and maybe initiate a call to them. Maybe reach out to them in text message or email and say, hey, I know you're by yourself. You want to talk? You know, I've got some time at 5 o'clock on Saturday. You want to talk? And that's the way you do it. I think that would be great. And then the last one, social anxiety. Are you feeling worn out and drained by virtual communications? It may also be in part with how you are hardwired. So listen to this one, you guys. The benefit of digital hangouts are the flexibility and accessibility to connect with one another. Digital hangouts have fewer technical barriers to socializing, such as finding a place to meet, the cost of transportation to get there, so forth and so on. However, it would be presumptuous to say that digital hangouts are correlated with a finite result of well-being. So listen to this. Anxiety and stress manifest in people differently. And while there are common symptoms, the subjective experience cannot be neatly confined. If a digital hangout is causing crippling social anxiety, perhaps an alternative form may serve you better. If a person's anxiety level is at a functioning level and benefits of socializing outweigh or foster positive behavior, then perhaps a gentle push outside of their comfort zone can be helpful. If this describes you or someone you know, another approach is to turn off the video if possible. Changing video settings is another practical approach to reducing online anxiety, like lowering the lights or changing filters to buffer image. So I have very bright lights on me during Jimmy rants. I like being able to see the person that I'm talking to, but can I tell you, when I have talked to some specific friends a lot on video and then we switch over to audio only, like a phone call, the dynamics of the conversation actually change. Have you noticed this? Like, those of you that are regularly talking to other people virtually, have you noticed there is a little bit of a difference from when you talk to someone on video versus when you talk to them just on audio? I have. I sometimes feel like I can go deeper and have meaningful conversations being on audio. When I talk to my mom, she doesn't have video capabilities. She doesn't know what Skype is or Zoom, and she doesn't have an iPhone, so can't FaceTime. So we talk on the phone. And I've had some really deep conversations with my mom, and we have a great time. Whereas if I looked at her on video, I'm sure the dynamic would change a bit. And same with these friends. I talked to quite a few friends on video, but then when we switch to audio, it's a different experience. Then even further, when you switch to text, it's even different than that. So I would say if you're getting frustrated with one form of virtual communication like video because of some of the technological issues, switch over to phone, switch over to text messaging, because maybe that will take away some of this stress that we're talking about here today. So the conclusion is there is no perfect formula for how you should connect with people or how often you should connect with them. Everyone feels connection differently. For some people, texting is plenty for them to feel socially engaged, while others need audio and or visual connection to feel satisfied in their social life. Just because people have moved to digital hangouts doesn't mean your social boundaries have to change. So overall, we need to be proactive and creative in fostering virtual social connections during this time of isolation. We also need to make sure that how we are communicating doesn't make things worse. So this is why understanding the social drivers that may be causing you to struggle is important now more than ever. And I think this is a good time that if you're communicating with people virtually, that you talk to them and say, hey, how would you prefer to talk? Because some people, they don't want to go on video. I don't know what it is. I mean, I go on video every day with Jimmy Rants. No big deal for me to be on a video camera. I sit here and look at my ugly mug on the camera every single day. No, I'm beautiful. I know. Thank you for all you people who think I'm dissing myself. No, it's something that I like is video. But then other people, they do only want the audio, or they don't even want to talk. They just want to virtually talk through a text. Have those conversations with people. Hey, how would you prefer to talk? I know I have had friends that we started off talking in text message, and then as we developed our friendship more, then they wanted to talk on the phone. And so we started doing that. And then once that developed more, then we wanted to see each other, especially once we have been together in person. Then you want to see each other on camera. There's just something about seeing the face of someone, friend or family that you know and love, that, you know, can kind of boost you. But if you find that you're getting stressed over that, catch yourself before that happens and communicate it. Hey, this is stressing me out. Can we go back to the phone? I think that could be really helpful. So I thought this was a cool Jimmy Rants topic to talk about. I definitely want to see what you guys have to say. We're going to go to Instagram Live first, and when we have time, we'll come back over here to you guys here on Facebook. Thanks for being here, and welcome in, welcome in. JimmyRants.com, by the way, is the website for all the past episodes. Blazer Mama says, no, it's not too stressful because I'm an introvert. Okay, that's cool. And introverts, it's a little bit of a mixed bag with introverts with communicating, because you don't really want to be around people, but you do want to communicate. So maybe one of your coping mechanisms for being an introvert and yet wanting to still talk to people is you're completely fine doing it virtually. I think where it comes into trouble is people like me who are very extroverts, and I miss physical touch and hugging and just being able to read all those social cues like we were talking about in the story. All of that is just as important to me, and being able to physically communicate social cues back to the person I'm talking to. That's what I miss the most. So good for you that this is definitely a good time for you to be an introvert and to communicate virtually. It sounds like it's working good for you. Kelly says, I find I talk to my family way more now. You know, I hope that's kind of an unintended consequence of this, is people finally realize, oh, these people in my family are actually pretty cool. You know, a lot of families have disconnected. They don't eat together, meals together. They don't really spend a lot of time together. I know a lot of families do, but there are quite a few families that don't. So this has kind of forced that on certain families. So I'm happy to hear you say that, Kelly, that you're communicating with them a whole lot more. Now, you could be talking about your extended family virtually as well, which again, I think that's wonderful. I was talking to my mom quite a bit even before all this went down. So we still talk a lot, just as much as we did. Anita says, lots of phone calls with my friends and family, Zoom meetings for family birthday parties. Yeah, the birthdays, the anniversaries, all the special little occasions, all this technology. And guys, we should be very thankful. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, it's adding a little more intensity to our relationships, but we need to be thankful that we live in 2020 in such a wonderful technological wonderland that we live in, that we have phones and devices and apps like Zoom and Skype and FaceTime that let you communicate in such a powerful way. In just 20 years ago, none of this existed. 15 years ago, iPhone wasn't invented yet. So we need to really be grateful that we have this technology now more than ever before. Mama Orr says it's so stressful trying to set up a Zoom meeting. Well, yeah, where everybody's available, and it depends on how many people are on the call. I would say if it's stressful to get like more than a couple people together, maybe limit it to just one-on-one or as few as possible. Or just say, this is when we're doing it, and if people don't show up, that's on them. That takes the stress away from that. Kat says, no toll on me from virtual communication. More screen time becomes a toll on my eyes. Homeschooling is no joke. Majority has to be done on a computer. Yeah. And that's another thing. If people don't want to be on a screen, on a video screen, because of like all the screen time with your eyes, switch over to a phone call and then darken your screen. Like I know a lot of people do that. And that could definitely help as well. Kat says, yes, 2 kids screaming on a background all the time. So mentally exhausting. Me time is very much needed. And sadly, right now, me time is probably limited, isn't it, Kat? Anita says, my brother won't text if it is more than 5 words. He calls me. His children don't answer their phones. They only text. Yeah, kids tend to like to text or Snapchat. I have had several discussions with people over Snapchat. If you've never used Snapchat, they got a cool little interface where you talk to the person, and then when you leave the app and you come back, it's all wiped out. So there's no history of it. And then you can also video call through Snapchat. Snapchat's pretty cool. I know all the kids are on there. And this old guy just told a bunch of people to go on Snapchat. But yeah, I'm one of those people that if a text message conversation gets to a certain point, I just call the person, because yeah, at that point it's like, okay, we're having enough of a discussion. Let's talk on the phone. Kelly says, yes, I can't stand looking at myself. Well, I am body positivity about myself, and I'm so freaking good looking. It's not even funny. Hey, holla. Ashton says, I haven't wanted to talk either FaceTime or on the phone. And that's okay, Ashton. You don't have to talk. Definitely text message. Definitely old school, very old school. We could mail letters to each other, or you could email. Nobody says you have to physically talk to the people if you don't want to. Dragon Pig, it's a great reminder to ask how they would like to communicate. I think if you communicate it up front, then there's no frustration. Then there's no stress. You take the stress away from it when you have those conversations. Kat says, I hate holding my phone in front of myself, and I can't stay still, multitasking all the time. Love talking while gardening, fully engaged, not distracted in conversation, but still busy with the plants. Yeah, sometimes those little earpieces, the Bluetooth things could come in handy. For that purpose, you could just stick the phone in your pocket and just talk on Bluetooth while you're doing other things. I'm the same way, Kat. I don't like standing still, so I'm always, walking around. And if I'm outside getting sunshine, watching my chickens back there, it is nice to just, move around and multitask while you're having conversations with people. All right, so let's go over to Facebook. Thank you, Instagram. See what you guys have to say. Welcome in, guys. Thanks for being here today on Jimmy Rants. See what you got to say about this topic here. Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for being here. Donna says, hi, Jimmy. Lots of internet and telephone interaction here. Yeah, now a lot of people are using this technology, and hey, we live in this day and age where the technology is available. Why wouldn't you use it? Carol says, I want to see Skunk. Great name, by the way. Yeah, inherited this. Well, she's dead asleep. I don't want to wake her up over there. Skunky. All right, she looked at me, but she doesn't look like she wants to get up. But she's the one, if you've watched my Jimmy rants, she's meowing incessantly, really loud in the background. That is Skunk. Emily says, I have 3 others and a dog and a cat in my house. I do Google Duo calls or Facebook Messenger calls and lots of texting, working from home, so lots of conference calls. So yeah, people are using the technology. I think where it's going to be most challenging is not so much the social calls that you have with friends and family. It's going to be those people that you have to talk to with your job. So if you're working from home, it could be a little bit challenging because you're trying to avoid the small chit chat and get right to why you're talking to them on the phone for your job. Jessica says, hey Jess, I find texting more meaningful. People are more open sometimes. And that's the thing, Jessica. I think sometimes when people write out what they're saying, and like that friend I had this morning, she wrote out long posts that kind of said everything she wanted to say, and there was no like ambiguity in what she was trying to communicate. Yeah, you could definitely feel it a lot more. So you're exactly right. Very meaningful. And then I was able to write some meaningful words back. And if you don't use it already, you guys, on my phone, on the iPhone, there's a little microphone insignia that you can talk into your phone. You hit the microphone and you talk into it. And it's voice to text technology. I have used that. And of course, I've been using it for a little while. It's not a revelation. People use it all the time. But it is so good. Like people are like, well, does it misspell your words? Okay, maybe sometimes. But then if you see something egregious, you just correct it. Just type in the right words you meant to say. But it's incredible. And you can have fast conversations, almost real-time voice conversations, simply by hitting that little microphone. And then some of them also have where you can hold down a microphone and you can actually leave a voice message. So you can talk back and forth in voice message over your text. So yeah, the technology is just so cool right now. Lisa says, I finally caught you live. Well, welcome, Lisa. This was a spontaneous Jimmy Rants. I was not planning a Jimmy Rants today. I knew I wanted to maybe do one, but decided to come on here because this seemed like a good Saturday Jimmy Rants topic. Emily says, my family likes an app called Marco Polo. It's kind of like Snapchat, but you can see when someone else is talking. Yes, a lot of these do have that. There's another app, if you don't already have it, and it's free, called Signal, Signal, that I use with my web guy and several other people I've talked to on Signal. And yes, Snapchat is great. Facebook Messenger is great. There's just like use these things. WhatsApp is also great. All of these are ways to stay in touch with people, especially at this time. I think when I heard Nick Saban, the coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide in college football, when I heard him say that he got on, he got an email address and he got on FaceTime or something for the very first time in his whole life. And he's like 70-something years old now. He just now got on the technology. I was like, wow, yeah, the end of the world is coming apparently. So, Pink Piggy Pundit says, I love instant messenger. I'm not a fan of talking on the phone. I like all forms of communication. I'm not married to any one of them. I would say I am more of a talk on the phone with someone kind of person because I just love the interaction, being a social person. But I do know people just like you who enjoy just writing back and forth. Yeah, and I think about like deaf people that can't talk on the phone because they can't hear. Text messaging is a brilliant way to communicate for them. So anywho, so that's what I wanted to talk about with you today. Maybe you're feeling a little bit stressed when you're trying to communicate with people. Give a little grace to each other right now. Realize that we don't all communicate in the same way. Some people prefer a text message. Some people prefer an email. Some people prefer, talking on video, talking on the phone. Figure that out. Don't just assume the other person likes talking on the phone just because you do. They might not. So Hope this was helpful information for you guys here today. And that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, if you like the show, go follow me over on Instagram. We go live, generally Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, sometimes 5 p.m. Eastern. But you got a bonus one today on this Saturday edition. So Jimmy Rants starts over on Instagram at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. And after it's live, after we go off the air here in a minute, it's going to be available for replay for up to 24 hours on Instagram. Then we pop it over onto JimmyRants.com. That's the official website. Within an hour after it's over, it's up on YouTube. So type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. So guys, that's it for now. We'll be back again with another episode of Jimmy Rants. Bye. All right.